Voice Plays Curtea de Argeș is an audio guide narrated by teenagers about the built heritage of their town. Thank you for visiting our city and listening to our audio guide.
Welcome to the Royal Church of Saint Nicholas. The Church of Saint Nicholas in Curtea de Argeș is the oldest church in Wallachia that has survived until present day. Its construction was contemporary with the founding of Wallachia. At the beginning of the 13th century, the invasion of the Mongols led to the weakening of the kingdoms in the area, creating an opportunity for the small chiefdoms and voivodates of the region to unite in 1310 under Basarab I. Thus, Wallachia was born. It got its name from the word Wallach, used by neighboring populations to refer to people who spoke a Latin language, a predecessor of today's Romanian.
The church you see was built by Basarab I in 3051-3052, more than 20 years after the Battle of Posada. It was part of the royal court, of which today only traces of the former wall and the ruins of the royal residence remained.
The church was built by a group of craftsmen brought by the ruler Basarab I from Constantinople. It is a small-scale replica of Hagia Sophia Church in Istanbul, the main prototype for churches with a Greek cross inscribed plan. This means that if we were to look at the church from above, we would see that the walls and the central pillars supporting the vaults form a cross with equal sides inscribed in a square. This type of church was the most difficult and expensive to build at the time.
Another influence from Constantinople is the composition of the walls. The building technique of alternating rows of river stone with rows of brick is inherited from the Romans and specific to the Byzantine Empire. The carved stone window frames are late additions dating from 1750. For all its influences, the church is a local interpretation, one that shows us where the cultural models came from and what aspirations the inhabitants of this area had in the 14th century.
Outside the building, you can also see two thick masonry pillars attached to the walls. These are called buttresses and were added in 1850 to save the church from collapsing. The buttresses were built with bricks brought from the ruin of St. Nectaria Church, located on the opposite hill, which we invite you to visit next. In 1820, we learned that only a few ruins remain of the royal residence. Historians' interest in the church does not appear until later, towards the end of the 19th century, when the royal residence had already collapsed and the church was in such an advanced state of decay that it was put up for demolition.
Fortunately, the demolition, which was also supported by the authorities, was rejected by the townspeople. They appealed to the Historical Monuments Commission to save and restore the church. Their plea was successful, and in 1911, restoration work on the church began under the supervision of architect Grigore Cerchez, who restored the church to its original form that we can still see today. Inside, the church displays several layers of painting. The oldest one dates back to 1375, and it was commissioned by Vladislav Laiku, Basarab's grandson. The painting was redone in 1750 and 1827. In 1914, at the request of the Historical Monuments Commission, Dumitru Norocea, who was to become one of the town's leading personalities, moved to Curtea de Argeș to restore the painting of the church. Besides restoring the painting, Norocea is also responsible for one of the most important discoveries in the history of the church, the uncovering on the north wall of the nave of a marking made by the builders of the church on Basarab's death.
This text was narrated by
Eduard Băiașu,
Ana Baciu,
and by
Lavinia Milcă.
Shan't you see me again? Do not weep, but give alms in the village for all the shepherds to join. Let the boys know their father gave everything in the fight, and they'll be left with fields and beasts as inheritance.
While I'm pedaling, I like watching passers-by and analyzing their facial expressions. I wonder what they think of our little town where you always get to meet someone familiar.
You've been listening to short extracts from our stories written during the creative writing workshop. The buildings that you have visited have a special meaning for us. The stories speak of us and our connection to these places. If you're curious about them, we invite you to read them in full on our website. The audio guide in English was recorded by teenagers during the Voice Your Place Curtea de Argeș 2024 workshops.